By now, we all know the legendary status of the Gerber Strongarm, with now almost a decade under its belt since it was first released of use, proving time and again its bomb-proof capability in a compact package and being made right here in the USA. Well, there's a new blade in the Strongarm family, the USA-made Strongarm Camp. It is 420 HC, made in the USA, and definitely designed and has lines to excel in the backcountry at a campsite and to be used in that environment. Can't wait to unpack all of this with you guys. Thanks for joining me, all you return viewers. Appreciate you guys being a part of the GT crew here. If you're new to the channel, I'm Aaron. This is Gideonstactical. Let's dive in. Now, the blade on the Camp has been heavily modified over the original Strongarm. Many of those modifications are for its performance benefit as a camp knife, but a few of those changes have definitely caused it to lag behind its original brother. Let me explain. The Camp has a much thinner stock at 1/8 of an inch versus the original Strongarm that had 3/16 of an inch thick spine. That in conjunction with a much higher saber grind, making it a much better slicer than the low saber grind of its parent blade, I guess, the Strongarm. The Strongarm has always been great for prying, stabbing, piercing, and durability, but has never been a showstopper when it comes to the finer work. This Camp Strongarm far and away surpassing the functionality of the original with those finer, more precise cuts and tasks that you're going to perform in the backcountry, or even as a utility knife for EDC, doing those type of things. Whereas the Strongarm's durability and its legacy of durability, this one is actually the one that we put on the gauntlet all those years ago. About a dozen YouTubers tried to break this thing, could not do it, brought it back to me, dull as a butter knife, put a convex edge on it, and the convex definitely helps its functionality around the campsite, but just right out of the gate, with its relief edge and its thinner stock and higher grind, make this a much more enjoyable experience, quicker to get work done than the original around camp. So that's all the good, but what about the not so good changes in the Camp design? And we'll unpack that in just a moment, along with some competitive options. But I do want to invite you guys to hit that like button. Really appreciate when you guys do that. That's a super simple way to help us get recommended to other people here on YouTube. If you're not yet a subscriber, I do videos like this every single week, and I do invite you to subscribe and become part of the GT crew here, because it is really you, the viewers, in partnership with our regular sponsors, that help me to create this type of content, to buy a blade like this and then test it out, use it, put it through its paces to give you guys good data so you can make a wise choice. Is this really the camp knife for me, or should I go with something else, or whatever piece of equipment we're doing today? And I want to take a moment to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Rocky Talkie. And regardless if it's their new 5-watt radio or the original 2-watt mountain radio that started it all, we're actually right now, as I'm recording, celebrating 3 years to the day that my wife and I packed up our kids, threw them in an RV, and traveled America. And that 2-watt radio was a lifesaver on so many occasions, making it so easy to back up the trailer, communicate with each other across the campground, give one to the kids and let them go exploring and know that we could communicate back and forth with them, but also having used it a ton on so many different backcountry adventures. And they have really become just an essential piece of kit. So when they release the 5-watt versions, not only giving you extra signal strength, but also several different features. One of my favorite, access to the NOAA weather channels.
The National Weather Service has issued severe thunderstorm watch 414 in effect until 9 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time for the following areas.
Now, we've shown you guys how these work in the backcountry quite often, but I wanted to see how this would perform in a more urban environment. My brother's about 2 miles away as the crow flies through obstructions, buildings, and we're on like a level, what's it called, elevation. So we'll see if you can hear me. Hey, Nate.
This is Aaron. Do you copy?
Hey, Aaron.
Yeah, that's a good copy.
Good copy back at you. And so whether you're looking for something that's lightweight and easy to use, like the original mountain radio, or something that's a little more technical with more features and more power, like the 5-watt, Rocky Talkie has options to fit any scenario. And so I'll have a link in the description box below over to the Rocky Talkie website, which will also automatically knock off 10% from your purchase so that you can start exploring all the different capabilities of these two radios, as well as all the different accessories to really dial in which one is best suited for you. So I encourage you to check them out and score set so that you can stay connected to your party on all of your upcoming adventures. Now, to those design modifications that aren't really impressing me. Well, first is that they shrunk it by quite a bit, and I don't really know why. The Strongarm is a perfect size. Overall blade length is about 4.8 inches, cutting edge is about 4.5. They have brought the camp down to 4.1 overall, and because of this giant ricasso that you can kind of use as a choil. It's not a dedicated choil. I can kind of choke up in there if I want to, but I would have preferred to just have it come all the way down to where the grind line stops and then just have a little tiny resharpening ricasso right there. It means that you lose about 1 inch of actual cutting edge. The cutting edge is like 3.6 inches actual cutting edge. And so you lose a whole inch of capability, and having a knife that would have been overall length of 4.8 and a cutting edge of 4.5 would have, I think, been ideal for around the campsite. That's me, that's my mileage. I'd be curious to know what you guys think and what's your preferred cutting edge on a camp knife. I really look forward to that question, because then at that point it kind of reminds me a lot when we actually line up edges of the Principal. The Scandy Ground Principal is only about 1/4 inch shorter than the Camp Strongarm when it comes to the actual cutting edge. The Camp also doesn't have a 90-degree spine. I really worked with it. I could get a few tiny little sparks to throw. You're really gonna have to put it on a grinder to actually get it sharp. It in no way compares to the original Strongarm's 90-degree spine, which just launches. It's a flamethrower. Or the Principal's 90-degree spine. So it really boggles my mind if you're making a camp knife and you've hit it twice and executed it well with these two other American-made blades, why would you not carry that over onto this model? It really leaves me scratching my head and is definitely a miss. Now, a little bit later, we're gonna talk blade steel as well as durability, because I'm really curious to see how this much thinner tip is going to stand up compared to the, I'm gonna say, indestructible tip of the original Strongarm. We'll test all that and discuss that a little bit later, but I wanna hit a few other attributes first. Now, the things they've modified on the handle over the original, I think, make it a much more useful and ergonomic camp tool. Now, it's going to have the same idea of having a full tank construction all the way through, adding to that durability. That's excellent. You got a lanyard hole out the back there. Then you got that glass reinforced nylon polymer core, and then the rubberized overmold to give you better, warmer texture and have really good tactile feel. And it's a very grippy tool. So in wet, moist, humid environments, with lots of water around, or if your hands just get sweaty, you're gonna have a really good grip. But for me, it's never been sharp or sharp. It's been sharp, eh? Sharp or hot or causing problems. The benefit is that first off, they've deleted obviously the guard that came on the top, more like a dagger of the original, which you can absolutely get over and do woodworking, but it's not necessary if you're using it as a camp knife. So it just gives you a lot of grip points to place your thumb, so that's excellent. Still keeping you a little bit of a guard down here. Then they've actually kept the main core here about the same thickness, but they have kept that thickness a lot longer, whereas the original tapered and went a lot more narrow at the back and at the front. They've kept it more consistently thick all the way through, adding to the ergonomics, and fits perfectly in my hand, can use in a reverse grip, and cut for an extended period of time and not get fatigued. Now we're gonna test tip strength and durability here in just a moment, but let's talk some competitive options and just talk about this steel first off. 420 HC, boring. I mean, it's functional. This blade actually had a really wonky tip. It was ground way off to the side at the very end. The rest of the edge geometry and everything's fine, but the tip was way cockeyed. Because it's 420, I modified it and brought it back to a decent tip angle in, I don't know, 1 minute. So for a field steel, it's fine. It usually is very tough. All right, tip test time. I'm really nervous. I'd be surprised if it holds up. 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. Okay. That is one of the benefits of 420 HC. I'm not seeing any bending. It did not snap and break, and that is a thin tip. Durability for the win. on the Strongarm tip. But it's not gonna, you're not gonna see any mind-blowing edge retention, and you're gonna have to resharpen it quite frequently. So I really wish that they would have come up with some other type of steel like S30V and maybe charged us a little bit more, because this I paid $90 for an American-made 420 HC steel blade, and the competitive options you're gonna see here, I'm hard pressed to see the value, because the original Strongarm, originally when it was released, was like under 60, and that was part of why it was just like, oh my gosh, just mind blowing. And currently it's the same price, 90, and you're getting a much big, like thicker stock, bigger blade, all the things. So this should have been a little bit closer, I feel like, to the Principal, which is also 420 HC, made in America, scanty grind, very similar polymer sheath. This is like $65, $67, so like $70, $75, I think would have been like, okay, you know, not my first choice in steel, but I see it. At $90, just bump it up to 110, 120 and put S30V or S35VN on it. Because when we look at another blade coming in right around $100 ballpark, so I mean, we're within $10 of each other, I would say, is like the BK, what is this, 19. BK19, the whole Becker tweener series. You're gonna get more blade length, you're getting American made as well, you're getting polymer sheaths now on most of them. This one is full flat. You can get the Saber Harpoon BK18. 1095, if you're gonna ask me 420 HC or 1095, I'll take 1095 every day of the week over 420 HC. And then, you know, full tank construction. There's an argument to be made. I think the Gerber's handle is actually more ergonomic. Like if I'm gonna carve for quite a while, I'd actually prefer the Gerber's handle over the Becker. But the Becker has a lot going on for a very similar price point and arguably a better steel. And I'll have my links in the description box below over to not only the Camp, but the other blades I just ran in. So if one of them makes sense for you and you feel like it's time to pull the trigger, those are all provided below. Now, any good camp knife has got to have a good sheath, and they've carried on the tradition of the versatility of the original Strongarm in the camp version. Just really streamline the process a little bit. They've removed a lot of the lashing points, making it a slimmer profile, but you're going to get the tabs in the back that you can slide your locking mechanisms through for pals webbing, different types of attachments that way. Comes with the nylon strap. It's fully functional. You know, it's ambidextrous. You have the nice little wings here that you just depress, swap. It is a little bit loud, but it's secure in there. I mean, it's not going to come out of the sheath, and gives you a lot of lashing options. I want to be over the moon with this design, but there are three things that are just really kind of sticking in my craw, if you will. The first is the size. I wish that they had just kept the exact same blade length as the original. Shrinking it down now makes it more of like a dedicated companion blade that I feel forced, if I'm going camping, I have to have. Even if I'm doing day hiking, a larger blade or hatchet with me if I have to, whereas the Strongarm had just a little bit more blade length, more to work with, potentially delimb some branches if I was in a pinch, or baton slightly larger logs if I had to. And the other two go hand in hand. I feel like it's 5 years too late to the market and about $20 overpriced. If this had come out 5 years ago and was 70 bucks, I think a lot of people would have jumped on it. Now there's just so many options. The ones I gave you is just some very brief ideas. There are dozens that come to my mind that are around the $100 price point, usually with better performing steels in the edge retention round, and toughness on this size of blade is not the first thing I look at, and just make this blade an interesting option, but doesn't in any way make itself like float to the top. If this was S35VN and like $10 to $20 more, then I think a lot of people will be all over it. So it's not going anywhere. I'm definitely keeping it in the collection, and they definitely did a good job by thinning the stock, bringing the grind up, and doing some things with the handle. I mean, those are all the right things to do. It's just steel choice, price point, some of those things that make it an interesting option, but doesn't float to the surface for me as like a must-have. That's me, that's my mileage. I look forward to hearing your guys' thoughts, your comments, particularly if you own one. What's your take? I'd love to see a more premium steel version of this at some point, would be ideal. And ultimately, I thank you guys for hanging with me. I hope it's been fun and entertaining, giving you the data you need to know whether or not the Strongarm Camp is the right tool for you or not. Check out the other videos, subscribe if you haven't yet. Until next time, always remember to stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.